Thank you, Brother Sam, for your kindness and for the invitation, and anyone who is involved in extending the invitation. I appreciate it a great deal. It is a tremendous honor to be with you today. I feel like I stand in the presence of greatness at this moment. I love elders. I'm so thankful for you and the work we do. It has been unbelievably challenging these last 6 or 7 years to serve as a shepherd. It doesn't matter what decision you're making. The tenor of our culture has become such that people like to live in an objective case. They like to be in the situation where they argue with those who are leading. If you led through COVID, thank you so much for doing that. No matter what you did, it was the wrong thing. Thank you for your service. What I will talk to you about today, I will say with all the humility I can, and if it does not sound that way, accept my apologies in advance for that. Because I'm not going to try to say I have things figured out that you don't. We deal through the Institute with about 500 to 1,000 elderships a year. We deal with several thousand ministers every year. And when we started doing this full time about 5 years ago, we knew we would love to work with preachers. What's been most enjoyable to me, this is going to sound really bad in a surprising way, is how much we've enjoyed working with the elders we've got to work with. Every week we get to work with a number of different elders and elderships, and it has been a thrill to get to be around elders and to see how you work and the service that you provide. And we're thankful for that. We've learned so much in that. So thank you. And just before I go further, there are some real heroes of mine that are in this room. Thank you for your service. I love you, and I'm thankful for you. Thankful for how you blessed my life, and you blessed my brother's life. Y'all have been a lot to him in this area, and to me as well. So thank you so much. I could spend all of my time just kind of going on and on about you and about what you've done, but I'm going to talk to you about some essential conversations that elders need to have. But what we have found is that a lot of times elderships just kind of have a continuance about them. An elder retires and dies or resigns and leaves, or there's a controversy, there's a stir up, and there's some new elders come in, and then over time another new elder comes in, and a lot of times they just assimilate into the mode of what's going on. And sometimes, why do you have to go to church on Sunday night? Well, the elders said we have to go to church on Sunday night. Well, that's 1936 when they made that decision. It might need to be looked at again and decided again. Is this important? Did your eldership decide this, or did a previous eldership decide this? And sometimes elders, now I'm going to say something that can offend you, okay, so just get ready for that. That's not my intention, but I know it will. I have found that all elderships believe they're good communicators. All elderships are bad communicators. Okay? I mean, well, if you think you're a good communicator, you're not. Y'all don't communicate well. And if you do, thank God for you, but I'm going to already tell you don't. Okay? Elderships, they're horrendous at it. And I deal with elderships, I say, every single week. There's not a Sunday that goes by that I don't visit a church and meet with a group of elders. And oftentimes during the week, I'll do Zoom meetings with elders. I'll drive somewhere and deal with elders. We deal with elders all the time, and they think they're good communicators. But most often, it is extremely rare to find an eldership. And that if you ask the congregation, and I don't mean your best friends of the congregation, I mean your worst enemies of the congregation, do they communicate well? And so they say, well, of course, my worst enemy is going to say they don't communicate well. So maybe that's not a fair thing to say. But what I'm going to talk about today is some conversations that you ought to have. And what I see this lesson as is kind of a discussion generator. Not for this room, because of all the things I'm really bad at, and there's quite a list of those things. Of all the things I'm really bad at, the worst thing I'm bad at is discussions in a class when I'm teaching. I'm a lecturer. And I admire Melvin, thank you. you're so good at that, man. You just building things and kept on going and moved. I've got a good friend named Chester. I'm almost envious of him because he can ask a question in such a way that it always feels good responses. And my friend Andy Baker has that ability. I'm just amazed when I see something. I'm not good at that, okay? So if you have a comment and I don't like it, I'll just say, well, that's stupid. And that doesn't work well. For some reason, I figure out why. So then I just don't say anything. Then it's really bad, so whatever. I'm not good at that. So I want to apologize up front for that. So this is not a discussion time for here. It's some things maybe your eldership needs to talk about, needs to discuss. So important conversation that I think that you need to have before, now watch this sentence. These are some important conversations you need to have before you need to have them. Because if you wait till you need to have them, the conversation is probably not going to go very well. Number one, the unity conversation. The unity conversation. Are there unresolved tensions in the room? There always will be some tensions in the room. But how do you deal with it? I can walk in a room with a group of elders, and within 5 minutes I can tell you if those elders will be effective. Do they work well together? Is there, so you think about this matter. Y'all deal with the most important thing that's ever existed. The souls of people. You deal with things more important than nuclear codes. You deal with things more important than a heart transplant doctor or a neurosurgeon or the guys who spin rockets into space. You deal with things much more important than the politics of this world. You deal with the souls of people. And as elders, you have opinions. You wouldn't be elders if you didn't. You have leadership in you. And if you're not a leader, you're not an elder. You may have that title, but all elders are leaders by the nature of the role. And so you have opinions. And you have opinions on the scriptures. And even in matters that are matters of gray, you have opinions in matters of black and white that sometimes we disagree, but definitely in matters of gray you'll see things differently. And so how you deal with each other when there's a controversy, when there's some issue, is extremely important that you're able to work through issues that come up and walk out of that room still caring for each other. Are we safe in this room disagreeing? Can we disagree over a matter and still work together? Can we see something differently and still be fellow elders who are interested in shepherding this congregation? Number two, still in this unity area, unity is not the absence of disagreement. It is trust in the presence of disagreement. It's the fact that I see this way and you see this way, but I trust that your intentions and motives are pure and you trust that mine are, and we both trust that we both want the very best thing for this congregation. I love when Paul says that we are to endeavor to keep the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace. You know what I believe the most important word in that text is? No, I believe it's endeavor. Thank you. It's a good word. I like that word. It's the word keep. You see, here's what's cool. We don't make the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace. The Lord made that when we became Christians. We keep it. That little word keep, I'm not going to give you the Greek word for it because I don't know the Greek word for it. That little word keep appears 70 times in the text. Right? 70 times in the text. 65 of them deal with things like keep the faith, keep sound words, keep true to the Word of God, keep the commandments. 4 of them deal with the concept of would you keep this part, the idea of giving somebody something physically to keep. This occurrence is the unique occurrence in the text. Keep unity. Now, here's what's important. How many times does the text have to say something for it to be true? Obviously, one time. But here, I want you to think about this. The effort that you put forward in keeping true to the Word of God, in being sound in the Word of God, is the same word that's used when it comes to keeping unity. It's the same word. And I think that ought to say something to us. And so our goal is, we're going to do everything in our power to keep what the Spirit made. Elders have to be able to work with each other, with whatever. And when tension occurs, sometimes we forfeit that. So we need to step back away from it. And here's my recommendation. Spend time out of elders' meetings with each other. Spend time out of that room where those important decisions are made, those controversies on, where you're just talking about family and you're talking about raising kids, you're talking about caring for people in that church, you're talking about things that maybe you should talk about in that room, but that aren't in any way heated, in any way. There's no heat involved in it. We had an elder at a church I worked with one time, a good man. I loved him with all my heart. And the elders met on a Monday night. They met for 2.5 hours, dealt with all sorts of matters and issues and missionary stuff, and congregational matters. The meeting started at 6, ended around 8:30, and this elder, we'll call him Hoyt, because that was his name. This elder said as we were dismissing, "Brother Dale, would you stay around for a minute?" I said, "Yes, sir." And all the elders left, and I stayed in the room. And Brother Hoyt said, "Let's sit down a minute." We sat down. He was a big man. He was a mountain of a man. He was a principal of high schools, and his job was, when there was any kind of conflict in the school system, in national and metro school systems in Dixon County, he's the guy that the superintendent called in to handle whatever was going on. Because he was so big and impressive and massive looking, but gentle and kind and gracious, and he knew how to turn down temperature. We sat down, and Brother Hoyt said, I just need you to pray with me. I said, "Of course I will." He said, an hour before our meeting started tonight, I got a phone call, and my oldest son committed suicide. Now, what disturbed me about that was that he didn't say that in that room. They had dealt with such issues that they had become a little divided, and he couldn't bring that to that table. We have to be united. It has to be a true unity. We care about each other. The second conversation is the role clarity conversation. Do we understand our roles? Our elders at Spring Meadows, where I preached for about 15 years, remember when that series of commercials came out, the insurance company, I think, "Stay in your lane, bro"? That became their favorite line to use in talking to me. "Stay in your lane, bro." And my wife's favorite line to tell me is, "Let the elders be the elders." So, guys, your role is to oversee, to protect the church, to guard for you, to care for souls. And what I found is a lot of times elders end up, and y'all know this, members kind of even try to force you to do this, end up micromanaging areas that really you shouldn't be involved in. How do you deal with that? I want to tell you how our elders decide to deal with it. You can deal with it any way you want. Our elders developed what they call an admin deacon, an administrative deacon. And I call him a super deacon. He had 2 roles. His official role was he was a note taker in the elders meeting. The second role he had was he was a liaison between the elders and the deacons. And so if the elders started veering off into something that wasn't in their lane, then they would say to that deacon, "All right, this is your area, take it to the deacons, and y'all figure out how to deal with it." And I want to tell you what ended up happening from it. 5 of the 7 present elders of that congregation at one time were an admin deacon. It became kind of a proving ground for those men. where you began to learn how they interacted with the other elders, how they handled challenges brought before them. They had a seat at that table. They didn't vote, they had a seat at the table. They can be involved in discussion. And on the other side, the elder, the deacon, got to see what it was like to be an elder's meeting. Let me ask you a question. How many of you are elders in here? How many of you are elders? Okay, keep your hand up for just a minute. If you ever sat through an entire elders meeting, before you became an elder, keep your hand up. Through an entire four of you. So, I mean, think about that. It's just rare. Most men, they don't know what they're getting into. And what I found is, it creates a fear in them that is unhealthy. Because what they're getting into is not a bad thing. It's a good thing, actually. But they don't know what it's like. And wouldn't it be helpful if you knew, have you ever been a part of an eldership where we appointed a man and it turned out he wasn't everything you thought he should be? And how bad that is? What if that guy had sat in an elder meeting for a year and you kind of knew before going in, all right, here's how he handles controversy. Here's how he handles leadership. Here's how he handles when a member has a problem. And every once in a while, that deacon, that admin deacon, would have to be dismissed from the room if some issue came up. But let's face it, we're not keeping national secrets in that room. That doesn't happen real often. All right, so do you understand your role? There it goes for deacons. Do the deacons understand their role? Have you been clear to them? You see, most deacons deacon like they've seen other deacons deacon. If they came from a church that deaconed poorly, they're going to deacon poorly. And so what we learned is our deacons didn't know how to deacon. And so we had to train them. We had to free them. We had to say to them, listen, we are not going to micromanage your area. This is your role. We will not get involved in it. Here's what we want you to do. You figure out how to do it. And take care of it. And our deacons at Spring Meadows, where I preached, served for 3 years. And at the end of 3 years, they could be reappointed. The elders decide to reappoint, or they could not. Somebody says it's not biblical. Well, where is it biblical they serve for life? I mean, neither are biblical. There's not a biblical model that's given to us of how long a deacon should serve. If Acts 6 says deacons, I assume if the church at Jerusalem no longer had any widows, those men wouldn't have been deacons anymore, right? So it's not a lifetime sentence. What do you think it is? So, do we give them the authority to do what they're supposed to do? That they should do, the commission of the commission. Does the congregation understand our role? Do they know what it is? What we learned was that most often in the church, the congregation didn't understand what the elder's role was. And so we had a member come all heated because her husband had made a bid to get the mowing of the yard, and he had lost the bid to somebody who wasn't a member of the church, and this woman came because she was furious at the elders because they let the deacon make that decision. And it didn't matter how clearly they said, listen, that is his role, not our role. We weren't involved in the vote. We didn't have anything to do with this. We commissioned him to find the person to do that. His role is, he's over building and ground, or grounds. We have that separate. He's over grounds. So sometimes members won't let you be elders. So my suggestion is that every once in a while, maybe once a year, you take some time on a Sunday morning, not a Sunday night. I know you don't like that, but Sunday night, Sunday morning is when the people need to hear this or going to be there. Take some time on a Sunday morning and talk about what your role is as elders, what the deacon's role is, and what the minister's role is. And I think it'll create some clarity that'll be useful for the church. Number 3, the end of tenure conversation. All right, let's get in trouble here. Have you discussed how you're going to lead? Have you talked about it? Have you talked about what would happen if the other elders thought you should lead? Have you discussed how to go through the process of one of you leaving if you need to leave? Have you talked about this? And if you haven't, you desperately need to talk about this. I got a phone call this week from a church. I honestly don't remember what state they're in, and so I don't remember who it was that called me. But he said to me, he said, we've got 3 younger elders, and things are going really, really well, but we've got an elder that's 80 years old, and he's lost his mind, but he's kind of angry at everybody, and we need to remove him. And was one of you that called me? Could have been, huh? We need to remove him, but he's going to be really mad. The member's going to be really mad. And he said, what do we do? And I said, you had this conversation 10 years ago. That's what you do. You can't have that conversation in the heat of the moment. You have that conversation the night a new man becomes an elder. How do you plan on leaving? I told the church at Spring Meadows numerous times, I'm going to leave here happy. If you fire me, I'm going to leave here happy. If I die, I'm going to leave here really happy. If I decide to leave and go to another congregation, I want to do everything in my power to leave everything in a good position when I leave. I'm going to leave happy. So decide before. If the church has a policy, the elder set up a policy of, all right, a man has to resign at age 80. I don't think that's a smart policy. So I think it is. Well, I mean, I know me in there, my father-in-law is 89 and he's sharper than anybody in this room probably. I know people that are in their late 80s that are really, really still sharp. I know people in their 60s that aren't sharp at all. It's not an age thing. So our policy was, if at any point the majority of the elders think a man should step aside, that man should step aside. That's the policy we set. And we discussed the concept of, all right, how are we going to handle it? How are we going to leave? Everybody in that room, how are we going to leave? How are we going to step aside? And so have some understandings of this, of how you're going to leave. And you know, some elderships have a policy of you can't leave until there's somebody sit in your seat. Well, that's nice, but you got a 6-year-old there now. Vote, age, predetermined terms, the replacement timeline. I would caution against anything that would lead to all the elders resigning at one time. There's a consulting group out of another area that they go in and they tell the elders every 3 years all the elders all resign. Well, man, that's real problems. You lose your eldership every 3 years. Our policy is, and it's in our bylaws movement, our policy is every 3 years a man is reviewed to continue being an elder by the congregation. How do you become an elder? The congregation affirmed him to be an elder. Every 3 years he's reaffirmed. He doesn't cease to be an elder, but he's reaffirmed. And if he's not reaffirmed, then the other elders have to make a decision what to do with him. And that's in our bylaws. And somebody said, well, that's a bad law. Well, I didn't make it, but it's in there. And I think it makes some sense. The challenge is, how do you get rid of a man that needs to leave? And so, predetermined timeline. What do you do with that? Well, this is in our congregation, it's staggered, so we never lose the whole eldership at one time. So, all right, number 4, the shepherding versus managing conversation. I use the term elders most of the time because it's accommodative and people like that term. I like the term elder, but the term elder is probably, of all the biblical terms, the one that tells us the least about what the man should be or do, if you think about it. Bishop, shepherd idea? Man, every elder is a shepherd. The overseer idea? Yes, an overseer. The elder idea? He's old. And that's kind of arbitrary, isn't it? When I was growing up at Woodlawn in Birmingham, Alabama, that great church, they appointed 9 men elders in 1972 on the same day. 9 new elders. They had 4 elders, Herman King, Gary McDade, Brother Taggart, and Brother Anderson, Palestine Anderson, and C.C. Taggart. Those were the 4 elders. They were heroes of mine. Love those men. But they're all getting older. And they decided, In 1972, we need to appoint some younger men. They appointed 9 men elders. One of those men was 29 years old. How dumb is that? He's still an elder today. He's been an elder almost 50 years. You can't throw much of that man you hadn't dealt with. Of those 9 men, every one of them are under age 40. 7 of them are still serving, 7 of the 9. One of the others died when had an affair and left the church. But of the 9, 8 survived the eldership. You think how marvelous that is to have that kind of leadership. And through the years, they've consistently appointed some younger men in with the older men to serve alongside them. So, are we going to be shepherds in this congregation? We're going to care for these people. And are we going to take care of these people? And your elders' meetings ought to involve shepherding. Our elders developed a process through which they determined they would never have a meeting where they didn't have somebody come in from the congregation and pray with them. They would never have a meeting where somebody didn't come in and pray with them. And so somebody has a baby, somebody has a surgery coming up, a test coming up, changing jobs, getting married. Every time they have somebody come in and they pray with them. And then they decided, if we developed a system, if we don't have anybody to pray with, we're just alphabetically going to start calling people in. Scare them to death most of the time. But it was really a blessing to them. I'm hearing feedback. Somebody listen to the Olympics World Cup.
You hear that, Will?
Somebody.
Somebody.
I thought it was me for a minute. No words are coming back to haunt me. All right, so, and what kind of meetings do you have? What is a meeting? Well, we'll get that in a minute, perhaps. So, allow yourself to be shepherded. Somebody's got to shepherd the shepherds. Number 5, the showing up conversation. I believe it is the minister's job to do what the elders tell them to do. That is not a very popular concept.
Coming from you.
Have you had any dental work lately?
I don't know what in the world's going on here. What is it?
Sounds like a radio.
Somebody's got a phone on or something.
Is somebody streaming this?
Well, let's just all be quiet for a second.
Alan had his routine.
Turn the phone off, Sam.
I turned mine off.
Now I don't hear it.
And my wife's in class, so
Test,
she can hear.
test.
I told mine to be quiet.
Well,
We'll get to
it bothered me, but hopefully it's not bothering you.
I don't hear it.
Went away.
Tonight,
Okay. So, I know this mentality, I've heard preachers say it for years now, I work for God, I don't work for the elders, and I like to say when God starts signing your paycheck, you work for God. And I understand what they're saying.
That way.
What's that?
So that's good.
Yeah, I understand what they're saying, and I understand the mentality, I'm responsible to God. But I am an employee of the church. And I was hired by the men who serve as elders in that church to be a part of their responsibility of feeding the flock. And if they say, all right, your job is to mow the yard, that's part of my job. I can discuss it with them. I can tell them why I don't want to mow the yard or why I'd rather not. I can do anything I want to with it. But it's still my job to be under their authority. I'm a member of that congregation. I'm under the authority of the eldership. Now, here's what I believe. The preacher in most churches has more influence than any of the elders, but less power than any of the elders. Now, you can do what you want to with that. We have influence, you have power. Let's make those two things work together for good. Use them for what they're worth. Play them together, not against each other. And as you use that influence that you have, use it for good. As you use that power you have, use it for good. And make the two things work together. But here's one of the reasons the preacher has more influence. Somebody goes to the hospital. Do the elders show up? Somebody goes to, somebody's having marriage problems. Do they come to elders for counseling? And I know some of that is because the preacher's the guy standing up every Sunday giving spiritual advice. And so a member gets hurt and they go to them. Maybe the elders ought to get up a little while and talk a little bit from the Word of God and show a compassionate side to them. And I think that would help this son. Be present in those hard moments of life. The preacher shouldn't be the only one who shows that people remember who came. I was in another state way away from here a few months ago.
There it goes again.
Would it be the microphones being too close?
There it is.
What's my recorder doing?
I don't know what it's doing.
Ed, it's your thing,
It's replaying
man.
what I said earlier. That was pretty good.
Want to get up for it again?
You'll call me.
Ed's the fault.
Somehow it got you to.
Good. I'm not,
Play instead of
I'm
record.
not responsible for anything I say because it's not recorded. That's good.
Start all over again.
I'll just hold this.
Blame it on Will.
Is it recording?
Yeah.
I'll just hold this in my hand and start talking again.
Get through it all.
So, show up in the important people, events in people's lives. That's part of what shepherding is. Shepherding. Number 6, the 3% conversation. All right, elders. Here's my view. 3% of the people in your congregation are complainers, whiners, and gripe about everything. 3%. You got 100 members, there's 3 of them. You got 200 members, there's 6 of them. You got 700 members, there's 21 of them. And I bet if you had a meeting right now, y'all could come up with that group, and it would be 3% everyone. You can tell me who those 3 people are. You know them. Some elders make a decision of letting that 3% rule the church. Because they seem like 50% because they're so stinking loud. They complain about everything. And you make a decision based upon, well, this will keep them from complaining. You know what they're going to do? They're going to complain anyway. And you're concerned they're going to leave. They're not going to leave. And if they did, you're probably better off. Don't let 3% leave the church. Now, should they have any voice? Should they be heard? Should their concerns be listened? Yes, they're souls like anybody else. But if you let the 3% leave the church, you know what? You don't have a job. They're the elders. You're not the elders. They're making all the decisions. You're making. We can't do that because they'll make this person work. Well, they've got money. Not as much as God does. You know, they've been here a long time. They've sacrificed this church. Not like Jesus did. It's his church. I had a young minister call me one time, and he said to me, he said, an elder came to my office the other day. This was a young minister, okay? And he told me, he said, Bob, that wasn't his name, you can change the name this time. He said, Bob, you can't wear flip-flops to the office. Now, I'm not big in the flip-flop industry. I don't have a dog in that fight. I don't own flip-flops. I don't like them, okay? You can't wear flip-flops to the office. And he said, Bob, you can't wear shorts in the office. And then he said, then this young minister named Bob said, not named Bob, said, well, what do I need to wear? He said, we're not telling you what to wear. I said, so what did he say? He said, well, he said the people with money in the church wouldn't like that. He said, what do I need to do? I said, you need to leave. Not because of the flip-flop and short thing, I agree with him on that, okay? But because if you're letting the people with money lead your church, man, stop it. It's wrong. Their money's gonna be gone someday, and you're gonna be lost over it. Money can't lead the church. One of the things I loved about preaching in Hamilton was we had two members. We'll call them John and Wayne because that was their names. John was one of the wealthier men in town. He was a great Christian. He baptized everything that moved. We call him Aquaman because if you got near you, he baptized you. Okay, he was a great evangelist. And Wayne was as poor as Job's house cat. Is that the old saying? I don't know why Job's house cat was poor, but Wayne didn't have anything. But Wayne was a great servant. He would do anything for that church. One of the things I loved about that church is the elders treated Wayne and John the exact same way. Faithful Christian, a faithful Christian. Don't let that 3% control things in your church. Let them be heard. Let them come in and meet with you. But before they come in, what to say to you. They don't like what's going on. You don't want to kill a church quicker than false doctrine. You don't want to kill a church quicker than a preacher having an affair. You don't want to kill a church quicker than anything else. You ready? Pessimism will kill a church. Pessimism. The church will overcome any obstacle put in its way. But pessimism, it cannot overcome. It stifles everything going on in that church. I've seen churches survive crazy things. It amazes me how resilient the Lord's church is. The pessimistic church is going to struggle. All right, number 7, the unanimous consent discussion. Remember, these are discussions. I'm not putting law down here. I'm just making. I know a number of elderships who say we don't make any decision unless it's unanimous. I understand that. I just think it's dumb. I told you, I offend you, okay? It's not my purpose, not my goal. So why is it dumb? Well, you've got what you do when you do that. You allow one person to be in charge of the eldership. All that person has to do is object, and they keep anything from going forward. Think how foolish that is. Would you do that in any business out there? Businesses don't do that. So we're going to run the church like a business, but we're going to be unanimous in decision. How about some healthy disagreement? How about some healthy public disagreement? How about if you get up some Sunday morning and say, the elders, we've prayed about this decision for a long time. We've worked on it. We've discussed it. We even fought on it for a while, and we put off the decision for a long time because there were some elders who disagreed with it. And we finally voted on the vote was 7-2. And I'm one of the two that disagreed with the decision. And I'm a member of this church. I'm under the authority of the elders. Now, let me tell you, that does two things, okay? One, it models being a servant. It models humility. It models the concept of I, as an elder, under the authority of the eldership. The other thing it does is, Joe's sitting out in the audience that doesn't like the decision the elder just made. He doesn't have any platform. But if the elder get up and say, we were unanimous in this decision, because two finally consented, because you had to be unanimous, and that's the only way you can go forward, and we were unanimous, Joe thinks nobody in that room represented my view. Nobody, I must be really dumb, because nobody saw what I saw. But if this guy gets up and said, I saw it differently, but I love the eldership, and I'm for the eldership. Now, I'm not talking about a matter of doctrine here. I'm talking about anything that deals with matters of gray areas, where elders have to make decisions. Learn to disagree and still love each other. Learn to see things differently and still work together. Practice healthy disagreement. We thrash it out, we disagree, we pray, we love each other, we made this decision in peace, and we're going forward. That brings up another matter about being in front of the church. You want a pro tip on being an eldership? When you make a mistake as an eldership, own it. Get up and say, we prayed about this decision, we thought about it a long time, we discussed it, we tried to do everything we could, we made the decision, and we were wrong about it. We're not Japanese people. I mean, I'm sure there's some Japanese elders, I'm thankful for them. You know how it is in Japan, you gotta save face all the time? What if we didn't save face? What if we were just transparent and real and said to them sometimes, we made a decision and it turned out like the right decision? The members will love you. They'll think, man, I don't mind serving those guys. They're willing to admit it when they make a mistake. You think of the arrogance of anybody who thinks they can't make mistakes. Who's the guy that wrote the book about the different team members? His name's escaping me right now. About healthy teams. He's a business writer. He has a real name.
Maxwell.
No, it's not John Maxwell. Oh, well. Talks about different roles that people play in the business, the 5 roles. Okay, well, you got to look that book up and read it.
Who's it by?
By the guy that wrote it. He said in the book, he said, the sign of true genius is the ability to say, I could be wrong. I don't know if he's right about that or not, but it kind of makes some sense. If somebody says, I can't be wrong about something. What?
Stephen A. McHale,
No,
becoming a healthy team, 5 churches.
that could be it. What's the name?
Becoming a healthy team, 5 traits.
What's the author's name?
Stephen A. M-A-C-C.
No, that's not him. Keep looking. Number 8, the evaluation discussion. Have you had a discussion in the eldership of what can we do better as elders? What can we do better? And how can we be better as elders? How can I be better as an individual elder? How can we be better as a group of elders? What I'm saying to you is we've got to talk about these things, discuss them, work through these things. We've got to communicate with them. If we're not growing as leaders, those that are following us are probably not growing either. We've got to keep growing throughout life. Improvement is not an insult. There are a couple of preachers in here. I'm thankful for you. And I met yesterday with a young preacher. He's 26, I think. And he's having some challenges. And he said, how do I get my elders to listen to me? Now, what did I say? Grow up. And I didn't say that to him. What I said is, brother, it's the long game. It doesn't happen overnight. They'll start listening to you if you prove yourself honorable, true, and faithful, and work hard. And I said, here's a little tip for you. If you're a minister, here's a tip for you. Ask your elders often how you can be better. And when they tell you how you can be better, do what they said. And at some point, they're going to turn to you and say, you know, you've done a lot of things to improve. Is there anything we can do to improve? It'll happen over time. It won't happen tomorrow. It doesn't happen one day you ask, and the next day you turn around and say, now I want to tell you how to improve. No, it'll come to you. Just give it some time. Number 9, the preacher relationship discussion. There's a section in the book I'm going to give you in a few minutes. And I want to mention the book real quickly. What time am I? I got 5 minutes. Ooh. So this is a book. I've got one for each of you here. And if there are any left over after everyone has one, you can take them for your other elders that may not be here if you'd like to, okay? And this book is a book that is a list of top 10 lists, and they are designed for discussion. Every question they're designed as a discussion type thing for the elders to talk about. And one of the ones in here is top 10 discussions that elders and preachers need to have. That's a really enjoyable section of the book, in my opinion. I really liked it. But is your preacher healthy? Is he doing his work well? Have you learned to communicate in a way with him that doesn't make him feel threatened? That makes him feel loved? I love to tell preachers, the elders have a vested interest in you being the best you can be. Because they hired you. If you look bad, it makes them look bad in the hiring. Well, elders, you need to think about that from your standpoint. You have a reason to help this guy get better. And think about when you were 26, or 36, or 46, and how you handled criticism that might have come up. That will help you determine how to deal with the elders, with the preacher that you have now. For your opponents or your partners, the fractured elder-preacher relationship weakens a whole lot. There are a few things that cause more disruption in the church. We'll kill the church. It causes more disruption in the church than when the elders and preachers start working eyes with each other. You're on the same page, you're on the same team, things will be healthy. And then finally, number 10, the joy conversation. Are we enjoying this mission? There's nothing wrong with that. Jesus told the disciples, "I come that your life may have abundant life." You think about that. They must have had it. He must have had that. Or when he said it, they would have said, Peter would have said, "Lord, we don't see any abundance out of you." That's what Peter probably would have said. I know Peter, you do too. You spoke it up. Because you might have life, you might have it abundantly. Now that's not eternal life he's talking about, that's here. When you get eternal life, that's a blessing. And that will be joyful indeed. We're supposed to be joyful while we're here. Not everything we do in life is fun, but some of eldering ought to be a little enjoyable. I get to be a part of people's lives. I get to be a part of the worst moments in people's lives. That ought to bring joy to your life, because you get to influence the worst moments of their life. You get to be an ear for them in the worst moments of their life. You get to be a shoulder for them to cry on in the worst moment of their life. How wonderful that is. What a blessing it is. So enjoy this time. How long are you going to serve? 5 years? You know, the average elder in Church of Christ serves 6 years according to our surveys. 6 years. Now, some of you have skewed that number, probably. Served 150 years now, but without you, we've been 5 years, I guess. But you know that over, I think it's between 65 to 70% of the congregation of the Church of Christ in the United States today don't have elders. You're in a pretty unique role. Sam, at CYC a few years ago, we did that. There were 550 elders there. I don't know how many are there now, but that's been about 6 or 7 years ago. And there are some great elders out there in the church. And the best ones are the ones, what I have found in elderships, is using one man in that room that brings joy to everybody else in that room. If you got that one man, embrace that man. Be thankful for him. If you don't have them, get out there and find them, because he'll make your whole eldership better. If you don't enjoy that time together, it's going to make every decision you make harder to make. It's going to make every issue that comes up more heated. But if somebody can bring that temperature down and help you enjoy each other, I'm not saying somebody doesn't meet all the qualifications. I'm talking about somebody that meets qualifications, but also brings the spirit of joy to what he does. You have a tremendous privilege to serve. Leadership with joy blesses the whole church. It doesn't deny that this is sometimes challenging, it doesn't deny the weight of it, but it remembers grace, it remembers the gift they have of being together, of working together, praying together. Each of you having been selected by that congregation to serve. The people in that congregation see you as a leader. What a blessing that is. All right, real quickly here. I challenge you to choose a conversation. Choose a conversation you can have. Healthy elders have healthy conversations long before the crisis demands that they happen. Thank you for listening today. I'm done.